Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel, and if you've spent any time here at all, you will know that I am on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful in your business. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the way you are successful in your business is by being more effective with your sales and marketing. So not only am I here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing, I'm also giving you everything I can extract from whoever will talk to me on this subject. So today's guest has been in directorship roles, running businesses going all the way back to July 1995. He is a serial business founder. He has held and continues to hold a host of board advisory and non-exec roles. He describes himself as the entrepreneur's coach. His friends call him Pierso. I don't know if we are friends yet. He claims to be the one and only Piers Mummery. Hello, Piers.
Well, good morning, Martin.
And that's quite a bold claim to be the one and only.
Well, do you know, there are two answers I could give you that. One is everyone's unique. You know, Oscar Wilde once said, "Be yourself because everyone else is taken." But I've actually genuinely believe, and actually there are quite a few people around the world who are just unique with their names. I've never met another Piers Mummery. So if you type Piers Mummery in Google, it's only me.
Okay, you know I'm going to have to do that right now while we do that. So is Mummery a particularly rare name, and Piers is a particularly rare name, and so there is only one Piers Mummery?
I don't know. Well, Piers has become a little bit more common. I think its notoriety came around probably through Piers Morgan. So that's where a bit more commonality around Piers came from. But my father actually named me after the racing driver Piers Courage back in the 60s. He was a motor racing fan. And he just liked the name Piers. I didn't like it when I was younger, but I've actually grown to really enjoy it. It's quite nice. It's a good talking point. We're having a conversation about it. And the name Mummery is, I think it's got French or Roman history. But as I also have been told, this is how I play on it, Mummery comes from the 16th century mummers who were street entertainers. So I put myself as a dancer and an entertainer, but anyway. But yeah, no. When you put the two together, as I said, I've yet to find anyone else Piers Mummery. There are a few Mummeries around, but the college is quite unique. And I always say that because it's one of those things that made me realise years ago I can't hide. You know, if you want to find Piers Mummery, he's quite easy to find because there's only one of him. Okay. So I therefore became very open with my kind of world. So I put my mobile phone everywhere. You can ring me, talk to me, very open. I'm not a hard person to find.
Okay, good. Interesting. I've just done the Google search and I've done an image search, and I'm happy to confirm that you appear to be the only Piers Mummery. So well done you. There's a few Martin Henleys. There's a couple. There's a barrister who's a Martin Henley, and there's a author, I think of education type books in the US. So that's a little bit annoying. That's handy though if you are in business, because like you say, if people want to look you up afterwards, you're the only one they will find.
Well, people talk a lot today about sort of personal branding and the importance of that. And if your name's John Smith, I kind of think you've got a big marketing challenge ahead of you to try and create a brand.
Yep.
But for me, I found, pretty straightforward. And I think you have to, your reputation is the only thing you've really got in business to play on. So it's very important to kind of, build that reputation, build that personal brand. I'm in a slightly more, an easier situation because obviously I'm the only one. Okay, no worries.
Okay, good. So you were just saying that you were the one and only. That will get edited out. Don't worry about that.
Yes, the one and only. Sounds a bit arrogant to say, doesn't it?
No, but I think it's really handy. But I think also you do need to behave because, if you do get some bad publicity, that is going to appear, isn't it? So, so maybe a double-edged sword, like really handy. You're the only one people are going to find, but also, and maybe not a double-edged sword. Maybe it just keeps you on the straight and narrow as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because I do think it is a double-edged sword. But I think exactly as you say, it does keep you on the straight and narrow, because what I realized a long time ago is, reputation is everything, and I think particularly in business, one of the most important things for me is trust.
Yes.
And if you breach trust, if you have a poor reputation, if you're seen as a bit of a scallywag or a scoundrel, that's very hard to come back from. And
Yes.
you know, and I think for that reason, I'm very conscious of playing to my own values and my own sense of what I do, which is I'm all about being authentic and being open, being honest, being real, because I sleep at night. I don't have any issues that I carry around. I don't have baggage. I'm very open with stuff, which plays into the uniqueness of my name. And I think that's very important. I think for anybody, actually, just to being authentic is a really key thing and a key part of life.
Yes.
Particularly if you're easy to find like me. Having a single name means I've got to keep on the straight and narrow and do things. Yeah, there's a responsibility comes with it, I guess.
Yes, there is a responsibility that comes with that. Good. I don't remember, but there was a point in my life when I just realized I didn't have the memory to tell lies, for example. So it's like I can't remember what actually went on and the thing that I've created. So and my life became much less complicated then when I not that I was a huge liar anyway, but when I realized there was absolutely no way I could sustain it, then my life became much more simple. Good. Okay. Well, we're not sort of here. Well, we are here to talk about the uniqueness of you. Your specialist subject is entrepreneurship. You are positioning yourself as the entrepreneur's coach. So that is your specialist subject for today. As you know, there are only 5 questions. So the first question is, how are you qualified to talk to us about entrepreneurship? The second question is, who do you work with? How do you add value to their lives? The third question is, what are your recommendations for people who want to get better at entrepreneurship? The fifth question is, what should people read? And the fifth question is, who can you throw under the bus that I might enjoy to have one of these conversations with? So the first question is, how are you qualified to talk to us about entrepreneurship?
Well, interesting. How is anyone qualified to talk about anything? I mean, I think it's really a question of learning. So I've been in the entrepreneurial circles, entrepreneurial world for about 30 plus years. So I've started, built, sold, collapsed, created about 10, 11 startups. And I've always played in that small business world. So, I think probably having been doing this for 30 years gives me some sense of I know what I'm doing. And I kind of realize sometimes when I talk to a lot of people, what I say to me is very obvious, but to other people, it doesn't appear to be obvious. It's quite complex. So I feel that, I just naturally understand how this works. I know how to start a business. I know what needs to be done. And entrepreneurism, to me, the definition of that is finding a way to do things with limited resources. You just do it.
Okay, interesting. Because it seems to me that the word, what the definition of entrepreneurial has changed. So, but it might be one of those Mandela effect things where I think it used to mean something and now it means something else. I thought when I was growing up that an entrepreneur was clearly it was also about making money, but there was also some kind of innovation. So it would be kind of like a new way of making money, or developing new products and services. So Clive Sinclair, for example, was described as an entrepreneur in the 80s, and he came up with this C5 thing, And I suppose Alan Sugar and Richard Branson and those people were entrepreneurs. Whereas it seems now that everybody is calling themselves an entrepreneur. Like people who start a graphic design business call themselves entrepreneurs, or print businesses, or a web company. It almost seems to me like the word entrepreneur also now includes anyone who is a small business owner. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's not necessarily a title; it's a way of thinking. So I don't see people, a managing director manages and directs a business. An entrepreneur does not entrepreneur a business. It's a way of thinking. It's a mindset that goes with it. So I think when you refer to people like Sir Clive Sinclair and people like that, I see those more as innovators and inventors. So you invent something, and there's plenty of history around people who've invented things. But being an entrepreneur is about how you do things. Okay, so it's being lean, agile, bootstrapping, finding a way, and developing all the traits you need to achieve things. So you can be at home, you can be an entrepreneur. So I mean, I've got children, so for the parents out there, being a parent, you have to be entrepreneurial. There's no rule book, there's no guide, there's no this is how it works. You just find a way to be a parent, and you do the very best you can. Some people, well, most people win, but a lot of them lose. People don't actually become successful parents. It's a way of thinking, and I believe that's what entrepreneurialism is. It's a mindset and a heart set.
Okay. So that's interesting. Okay, that's really interesting, but I'm not necessarily any clearer on what actually. So an entrepreneur is somebody then who finds a way. Is that what you're saying? So there's an element of risk in this, there's an element of innovation, but there's an element in. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding. I'm having to hold my microphone because today's the day that my stand has given up. So if I let go, it kind of falls. Oh, whoa, it's really gone.
Okay. No problem at all.
So
I agree with you. I think a lot of people say, I can set up a graphic design company and call myself an entrepreneur. To me, I see the word entrepreneur is the means to the end. Okay, so it's the process of enabling you to be a founder, enabling you to be a business owner, a managing director, a CEO, all the top titles. A person who founds and takes a business from virtually nothing to some degree of success goes on an entrepreneurial journey. So you're absolutely right. It's a way of taking all the components: risk, determination, drive. It's that innovation. Being a pioneer, you're often treading a path that hasn't been trodden before. So anyone who starts a business, that's never happened before. As in, that person's business has never been around. Your business has never been done before because it's your business. So everything you're doing is new. You're taking certain tried and tested means, marketing, sales, operations, finance, and so on, and you're using that best practice. But the fact around the risks and the rewards, that's the unknown, and that's typically as entrepreneurism associated with risk. And it depends on your risk appetite. You can go very safe, or you can go very highly risk. So yes. High risk entrepreneurs, Sir Clive Sinclair, probably, and I would say Alan Sugar, Richard Branson, Elon Musk. These are bold, ambitious entrepreneurs who are prepared to risk things and risk everything. So it all depends on your appetite for risk, and that depends on your passion for a subject or an opportunity and your determination to drive it. And there's a lot around that we can talk about. But it's, as I said, it's the mindset you develop and the heart set you develop to actually go and do something. Are you prepared to take a risk?
Okay, good. I've looked up the actual definition. So the actual definition, according to Oxford, is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. So I suppose that fits in more with my idea of what an entrepreneur is. It's about that risk. It's about the willingness to take a risk.
It's interesting. I mean, again, I always challenge this because it's not just about financial risk. It's about human risk. It's about your livelihood. It's about your jobs. It's about your security. It's about your family. It's about the emotions. All of that's at risk. So you risk an awful lot more than just money.
Yes.
And I think it's a really key thing. So, when you look at the sort of the typical definition, yes, it's a person who takes risk, financial risk. But, we take financial risk every day. You give somebody money in a restaurant, you expect them to get the change. You're taking a risk because you're trusting that person to give you the change back. It's a small example, but it's not just financial risk.
Okay.
It's intellectual, it's emotional risk.
Yeah, and emotional. And this is a conversation. This is kind of the way that we've been talking about things recently in these conversations, is that people, aside from being whether you're actually an entrepreneur or not, anyone who decides to run their own business is stepping into an incredibly risky situation, because, like you say, it's like, even if we just talk about the financial risk, and the effect that has on families, and the home that you might own might be at risk, and all of these things. So even before whatever we decide an entrepreneur is, even before you're labeled as that or qualify as that, just being a business owner, I think there are something like 46 ways that a business owner can go to prison that nobody else can, So you are stepping into a very specific arena. Just by virtue of deciding that you want to run a business, you are opening yourself up to a lot in the way of risk, personal risk, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So just so I'm clear, if I were to start tomorrow a graphic design business, am I entitled then to call myself an entrepreneur? Does that qualify as being an entrepreneur?
Of course you can. I mean, you can call yourself anything you like. I mean,
yes.
there's no rule on this. I meet in the creative industry plenty of people who call themselves, the head honcho, the grand fromage, the head of this, I don't know, whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
Right.
The fact that you are an entrepreneur, a managing director, a founder, or a CEO, okay, is irrelevant. It's what you actually then do with that.
Okay.
So it's not a sense of, it really is in the sense of, just because I'm an entrepreneur means I'm going to be successful. No. That's when the hard work starts. So,
yes.
I don't really mind what people call themselves. I chose to call myself the entrepreneur's coach because that's what I do. I coach entrepreneurs. But a lot of the challenges actually with this is people's egos get in the way a lot. And I think this is something, if you're able to transcend your ego, that's when real mastery occurs. Because actually what you call yourself doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
No, I don't think it does matter. But what do I think? I think when this occurred to me is I encountered quite a few digital nomads. I don't know if you're familiar with this little thing that's gone on or was going on before, what's gone on for the last 2 years. And you would meet those people and you would say to them, "What do you do?" And they would say, "I'm an entrepreneur." And I don't know. I don't know if it's particularly useful when you're I know it's not particularly useful. Like, we've spoken about networking already, but and we might talk about elevator pitches and all those kinds of things. But I don't know if that's valid to introduce yourself as an entrepreneur. It's like, and I don't know if I don't even know if it's worth us having this conversation now. I'm thinking about it for more than 30 seconds. It's like if yes, if you're saying I'm an entrepreneur, kind of, to me, what that person is saying, apart from they're not, is they're saying, I am going to start up and run. No, I'm going to find a way to make a lot of money, is kind of what they're saying to me. And it doesn't matter how I do it, like what the flavor of the business is, whether it's as a locksmith or a shoe shine boy or whatever it is. My mission is to kind of find an innovative way to set up a business and be making money. And that might be like so then people describe themselves as a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, this again is slightly egotistical. I mean, so it's a bit like, you call yourself, I'm a director. Well, okay, you're a director of what? And it sounds a bit grandiose, I'm a director, or I'm a business owner. Okay, well, what business do you own?
Yes.
I'm an entrepreneur. But an entrepreneur of what?
Yes.
And to me, somebody who says who self-labels serial entrepreneur, there's a big ego in there.
Yes.
Okay, because what on earth is a serial entrepreneur? I mean, we're all serial entrepreneurs. We all find ways to do things. So, for example, I don't call myself. So when I meet people, I don't say I'm an entrepreneur. That's not what I say. I'm an executive coach and I coach entrepreneurs and I advise companies. But you have to be quite careful about how you position yourself. So somebody said to me about 3 months ago, just before Christmas actually, um, they saw my profile and I looked quite unapproachable because I appeared to be quite scary because I'm this big non-exec, board advisor, and and I'm, managing director, CEO, blah blah blah. I've got all this positioning which makes me look very important. And I went, wow, that's a really interesting perspective because it's not the case. I mean, I'm not the big I am.
Yes.
We tend to have this sort of perception when we see people and hear things and see, when you meet people, oh, I'm a managing director, I'm a chief executive. Oh, wow, okay. Or I'm a founder. There's a lot of these things are sort of titles are in vogue, and I don't think titles really matter too much. It's all about what you do with it. Yeah, so frankly, I don't care. I just tend to call myself the entrepreneur's coach because I want people to know that I am a coach and I work with entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And I'm a board advisor because guess what? I advise boards. But actually, in some cases, there's not a board. I work with the CEO. I'm an advisor to the CEO.
Yeah. And so I think, because I've wanted to have this conversation for a long time because I'm an idiot like this. Something gets into my head and it's like, I need to understand that better. But I suppose it's just not descriptive enough. It's just not useful enough in an introduction to say I'm an entrepreneur, like exactly like you say. So I'm a business owner. Well, good. What kind of business, or I'm a director. Okay, that's cool. I tell you, the person I've got a real issue with about this is, I don't know if you know Gary Vaynerchuk, do you? This mouthy.
Yes, I do. I know of him. I don't know him personally, but I know
No,
of him.
I don't know of him either. But his thing is entrepreneur, 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 entrepreneur. But I think entrepreneur is more descriptive of a style of the way you're doing something rather than what you're actually doing. So, and I think he has inspired all of these kids to call themselves entrepreneurs when what they really are backpackers with laptops. It's like they're very rarely, taking on any extraordinary risk or anything like that. So I suppose that's my issue with it. And
Well,
yeah,
like Martin, I just want to add a small point. I do a couple of speeches or talks every now and then, and one of the things I say in the UK about the barriers to entry now, right? Well, not just the UK, across the board, to becoming a business owner or an entrepreneur are so low. So
yes,
basically, you can set up a website and you can trade globally from your bedroom or from a beach or from anywhere.
yes,
And in the UK, you can become a director of a company at the age of 16 years old, open a bank account, start trading across the world, and sell and service people's needs and provide products. But you can do that at 16 years old in the UK. You can become a director of a limited company, which has fiduciary responsibilities and a lot of power with that. Yet in the UK, you still need a license to go fishing. And I sort of sometimes think, the barriers need to be a little bit more a little tougher to get that. You should not have the ability to go and trade and set a business up any way you want from your bedroom. It's too easy.
it's
And
too
I
easy.
think the problem is you say, Gary, yeah, and a lot of people have celebritized the idea, or just popularized the idea of starting a business. Starting a business does not equal success. Becoming an entrepreneur does not mean you're going to be rich. 9 out of 10 startups fail. 95% of startups seeking cash and investment don't get it. Most of them are bootstrapping. We all have this veneer that people put on the front of your business, and you can appear to be unbelievable and incredible at what you do, trading across the world, but actually you're a one-man band sitting in your pajamas at home. So I think there's a real need to dig into this, because what that does psychologically to people is it creates a lot of charlatans, and I don't agree with that. This is where I struggle, because I meet so many people who are entrepreneurs and business owners and founders and CEOs and so on. But actually, when you strip away all that veneer, they're just regular people struggling.
Yes, and there are too many people struggling. So this is where I'm really interested to see this conversation go, because in the States you need a license to practice a business, to run a business, but in the UK you don't need anything. You don't even need. I mean, So this is how I started my business. This was back in 2005. I did some personal development, and the next day I started my business. And I don't know I do know what I was the world's worst employee, so I really didn't enjoy being an employee, and people didn't really enjoy having me as an employee. So it only ever made sense that I work for myself, is the truth. But immediately I did that because there was this thing where they said the universe will provide. And I had in my back pocket all day, every day, 3 credit cards that I'd never touched with like £5,000 worth of credit on them. And it's like, that will sustain me for 6 months. So, hey ho, here I go, But what I did is I walked into Dixon's or PC World or one of those atrocious businesses. And I said to them, because I needed a laptop, because I had a laptop with my job. So I was going to need my own laptop. And I walked in and they said, is this for you? Is this for a business? And I literally the day before decided I was going to run my own business. And I said, no, it's for a business. And they're like, okay, here's credit. And it's literally, I didn't need to have the bank account. I didn't need to have a limited company. I didn't have to have anything. My business was credit worthy just by me saying, I'm now a business, and it seems to me that the barrier is incredibly low. And I had not a clue. Like you said, you've started a lot of businesses. You know what needs to happen to start a business. I didn't have a clue. I did not have a clue. And what I didn't realize at that point is that it's an investment of time and energy and money. And if you don't have money, it's going to take up a whole lot more time and a whole lot more energy. And so my business, all the time I was running it properly, as a marketing agency type business, was just always hugely stressful because I was always running to keep up with what was going on and had no foresight of what was going to go on. So I think they should teach this stuff.
Maybe, but here's the question for you. Who ever said to you it was easy?
I didn't expect it to be easy. I didn't expect to be good at it. What was my expectation? Maybe my expectation was that I would be better. I mean, my issue was because I do sales and marketing. So of course I was really good at that bit. So I was having lots of customers. I was having lots of people wanting to do stuff. So what I realized quite quickly is running your own business is basically an exercise in being given the opportunity to leap and having to decide continuously, am I going to leap? Am I going to leap? And if you do that, then what happens is you get to a situation where you're beyond where you should be. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think it's, on the one hand, I do applaud the opportunity to go and start a business, but what you're describing there is exactly what an entrepreneur is. It's a way of being, which is, my expectations were that this is going to be difficult, it's not going to be easy, or it's not quite that bad, but I've got to take some risks. You've got to develop a mindset to go through that process and hopefully come out the other side. But the challenge, I think, is more that people see starting a business or being an entrepreneur as a rite of passage, because nobody starts a business to fail. Everyone starts the business to be successful. I have never, ever, ever seen a business plan that doesn't have a hockey stick, some form of hockey stick projection, whether it's standing upright or going on the side, but everyone gets rich on a spreadsheet. Okay? Yes. No business actually starts off at £10 million and goes down to zero, okay, other than the investment. But generally speaking, people automatically assume they're going to be successful. Now, what I would say is a couple of traits that people need to have to be a successful entrepreneur. If you are a bit more naturally sales marketing orientated, that's a good thing, because you do need to have some degree of sales and marketing skill to go out and find customers and meet people and engage. Because if you don't get customers, you don't get sales, you don't get sales, you don't get revenue, you don't get revenue, you don't get profit, you haven't got a business. So sales and marketing is definitely something that people need to have as a skill in starting a business. Equally, fairly rudimentary financial management is a thing to have. Understand the limits of risk. You can't just sit there and expect money to happen. It doesn't. Cash management is a really key thing. So just having a basic commercial nous and a basic sales and marketing nous is good enough to start with. The rest are attitudes, and you can drive through. So Elon Musk, for example, his mission is to live on Mars. He has no idea how that's going to happen, but he will, because he'll find a way to do it. It's not impossible to conceive that one day we can live on Mars. He will just find the way to do that. In the same way, Richard Branson, he decided to start an airline. No idea really what that all involved, but he found a way to do it. And that's the key, is finding the way to do it. So you need to be somewhat savvy in a couple of areas. So you need to have certain attributes and personal traits which will help you, but the skills around basic sales and marketing are, I believe, should be a given, and basic financial management.
Right. You see, this is my mission, because I don't believe people know when they start a business that essentially running a business is an exercise in finding or having winning and keeping customers profitably. That's the whole gig. So for me, you're right. If I had some financial nous, that would have been really helpful. But I had lots and lots of sales and marketing. So I could always bring in a customer, bring in a sale, but then they had to be, the work had to be done. So where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is, for me, it's all about sales and marketing. If you've got money coming in, although I'm the best example of what I'm saying now not being at all true, if you've got money coming in, then you should be able to fix whatever other issues come up. You can employ an accountant.
I'm going to challenge this. I mean, I'm far more simple than this. Okay.
Right.
If you buy, so the basic premise of a business, is to create profit and stakeholder value. Stakeholder being the shareholders. So if you create profit in the business, you can grow and extend that business further if you wanted to. It gives you that security enabling the business to trade. And that's a very simple formula, which is sell something for more than it costs you to make it. That's it. If you can sell something to somebody, or somebody buys something from you, and you can make a margin on that product, the chances are be okay. Just do more of that. It's basically buy low, sell high. Very simple. From a cash management, which is pay late, collect early. Collect the money before you go and pay for it. Generally speaking, you'll be okay. Otherwise, you'll be in a negative cash position. So I think it's very, very simple. And so just having money coming in or cash coming in, not great if it's a loss, because eventually those losses will amount to, and you run out of cash. I see lots of businesses where the cost of sale exceeds the value of the product. Yes, you can sell a product at a loss, but eventually those losses are going to stack up. You've got to pay for that. Your cash flow is obviously crucial, and you have to balance cash flow. But when it becomes tight, it becomes harder and harder. But you can't sustain a business making losses.
No, you absolutely can't. And this is also one of my missions. So I frame sales and marketing in terms of cost per sale versus lifetime customer value, because that for me is where it becomes, quantifiable, or as opposed to qualitative, this is quantitative, So my mission if I take on, I rarely do these days, if I take on a client, is to work out what that cost of customer acquisition is, what the lifetime customer value is. And that's my mission then, is to bring down the cost of customer acquisition, drive up the lifetime customer value. That should hit, if you've got some financial nous, your profitability. That should increase the profitability of your business. So I understand that. But thinking back to my situation, it wasn't anything like as simple as that. Basically what I was doing is I was always selling, and then running at 1,000 miles an hour to try and organize the delivery of what had been sold, and making sure it got delivered.
But what we were talking about there, is what you're referring to is scaling a business. Okay, so customer lifetime value, cost of customer acquisition. The vast majority of businesses don't tend to do that unless you're into scale-up mode, because actually, a lot of the big buzz of this obviously at the moment is SaaS business, where all these customer acquisition costs, lifetime values, annual recurring revenue, all those metrics come into it. But it's all about trying to figure out the sales hypotheses. Okay, so what do you need to do to go and sell profitably and generate a customer? And once you figure that bit out, then you can scale. So, for example, the world today is full of time-based, value-based businesses. So, consultants, coaches, freelancers, all of whom are charging hourly rates, daily rates for their services. But a lot of them don't realise that if you've got arguably 20 working days a month, you can't sell for 20 days working in a month. You can't deliver for 20 working days in a month because it's that stop-start. You've got to get a balance of everything. So a typical consultant would only really be able to sell about 10 billable days a month, because the other 10 days you're running the business and finding the business. And finding the business through sales and marketing is a really difficult process. So unless you want to work 24 hours a day, it's very hard to scale a consulting business unless you've got something you can leverage, like some software potentially, or you've got a network of other people you can leverage. So it's figuring out the sales hypotheses more than the customer lifetime value or the acquisition cost. That's very much the front end. But it is, as you said, it's about the delivery of that. Because you can go sell, and then you'll stop selling, and then deliver, and then you stop delivering, and you go cash collection, and manage all the admin. And as we know, as business owners, you've got everything to deal with, from your finance, accounting, people, operations, systems, platform, technology, sales, marketing, the whole, everything. So we're often chief bottle washer and all the rest of it in the small business sector. And that's half the fun of running your own business. But come back to that word entrepreneurship. You find a way to do all this, because that's what we do. That's the life you elected to choose. And you have to keep, as you say, that expectation around what the reality of that means. It's not supposed to be easy, but it's not supposed to be impossibly hard either. Okay, there are certain things you need to do to help you along the way to make you a success.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to push back a little bit, if I may.
Of course.
Because something's rubbing on a microphone. Is it something at your end, or is it something at my end?
I don't know.
Is it when I talk, or is it when you talk? Okay. We're having all the fun, hey, today? So, basically, the way I'm hearing you can let me know if if I'm getting this right, if I'm getting this wrong, is basically an entrepreneur is someone who is prepared to get down and dirty, do whatever it is that's required to run a business successfully. And you have to be prepared to do that, because it is so difficult to run a business. Because from your perspective, you know what you're doing. From my perspective, I still probably don't have a clue, even though I've kind of been doing it for 15, 16, 17 years. I did it properly for 9 years, where I had staff and rents and all of those things, So is that right? Do you have to be prepared to do whatever it takes to find unexpected resources, and because it is so difficult? Because you gave us the stats on the number of businesses that fail. You are much more likely to fail in your business than you are to succeed. What was the figure? Is it 90% of businesses go out of business?
I mean, it's a fairly typical percentage. 9 out of 10 businesses don't make it.
Yes.
It's easy to say. I think you're right. There are more failures than there are successes.
Yes.
What those numbers are is irrelevant. I think it's understanding the reason why a business is successful and the reason why a business is not successful. And there are some fairly basic things which I always want to bring right the way back when I meet entrepreneurs.
Okay. And I desperately want to know what those basic things are. But just before, so I don't want to forget this, you said nobody starts a business to fail, but almost immediately people are staying in business not to fail. Because you hear this stat and you don't want to be in that 90% of businesses that go out of business within the first 2 years or whatever it is. So and I worked with 1,000, like face to face with 1,000 businesses, and I've seen like all 1,000 of like a huge percentage of those businesses are basically in business to service an overdraft.
Yep.
So this is kind of a reality of what's going on, is that people don't have a clue how to do this, and you
Well,
do. So that brings us to your basics.
well, I just want to pick up on the point you said there about people who stay in business not to fail. Okay, it's a little bit like toxic relationships. When you start a business, it's like a marriage or it's like getting into a relationship with a partner. But when you have to recognize at some point, if that's not working, okay, what your remedial action needs to be. Because staying in that toxic relationship with your business or your partner is going to just lead to doom and unhappiness. And if you're there just constantly servicing an overdraft, maybe it's time to call it a day, pull the shutters down and go and do something else. Maybe it's time to end the relationship. And I tell you one thing, it takes a very, very strong entrepreneur and a good entrepreneur to recognize and have the courage of their own conviction to do that.
Yeah, because that isn't the reality. Because,
No,
like
it's
you
not.
say, it comes back to this ego, where you're right. It is like a marriage, because like a marriage, you're standing up in front of everyone and you're saying, "I'm going to do this thing, and I'm committed to this thing." So when you fail, and this is the one thing that Gary Vaynerchuk said that is absolutely right. When you fail, that's you failed. You committed to do this thing and then you failed at doing that thing. The one thing that Gary Vaynerchuk says that's really, really valuable is nobody actually gives a shit. Because when you're in there running your business, you think, oh, everyone's looking at you and judging everything you're doing. And the truth is, it might be like nine out of 10 businesses fail. Everyone's expecting it to fail anyway, really. So it's not going to come as any surprise. But when you're in that business is you. And that's why I think what you're saying is right. You have to be an incredibly strong, reflective, decisive individual to say I've completely screwed this, and I have to step away. So I had this conversation with, who did I have this conversation with? Ben. Oh, what's his surname? Ben, who wrote the Dummy's Guide to Selling. Ben Kench.
Oh,
Yeah, and he was. We were having like more or less this conversation, and he was using like the car analogy, saying, you need to take a test, you need to have proficiency, blah 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 blah, and the car analogy works brilliantly because what you don't do if you realize you have a problem in your car is press the metal to the pedal to the metal and just go faster and faster and faster and hope that it will all resolve itself, which is 100% what people do in their businesses, I think.
Completely agree. Everything you say there are so many analogies and metaphors you can use for this, because I agree with you. The number of people who bury their heads in the sand, stick their fingers in the air and go, it'll be fine, it'll be okay, make the bad man go away. And just have that blind optimism. Okay, and that's the worst thing you can do. You cannot deny reality. Running a business, it has a responsibility to yourself, to your customers, suppliers, your staff, your stakeholders, your investors. You are responsible. That's why you are the managing director or the chief executive officer. That's what you do. You're paid to be responsible in that business. So recognizing when it's all about to go to shit is a really key thing. And you have to do that, I'm afraid, sometimes. And interestingly, when I come back to these basics, okay, I think there are two sort of particular areas I'd focus on here. One is the attributes you would need as an individual. And then secondly is the basic formula for a business. And it's quite extraordinary, the number of people who still don't listen. To me, there is one massive thing. It's the only thing that matters in starting a business, really, is the customer fit. If you don't have a customer, you don't have a business. Period. I will argue that till I die. If you think you can start a business without a customer, at some point in your journey, then you're just never going to make it. So understanding the customer market fit is the most important thing. So for me, there are sort of four key stages. What's the problem you're solving or the opportunity you're creating? And what's your solution to that? Okay, that's number one. And we've all got ideas. Okay, everyone says, oh, let's do this. Well, I've got this is a great idea. If you then identify a problem and you identify a solution for it, or you identify an opportunity you can create. The very next thing you need to do is to work out the customer fit, which is someone going to pay for that? And are they going to pay for it profitably? If you don't do the customer fit, everything else doesn't matter. Assuming you get the customer fit and you know there's a need for the product and people are prepared to pay for it, the third thing is then having a model. Have you got a business model and a financial model where you can make money out of that? Because having a solution to something doesn't mean you're going to make money out of it. And the fourth thing is then having a plan. Okay, so to me, it's problem solution number one, customer fit number two, business model number three, and having a plan number four. Now, all of that is a process to go through, and that's easy actually, okay, because if you do that, that's when the hard work starts. Okay, executing on a plan, which is where, when I think of being an entrepreneur, there are kind of 6 key traits that a good entrepreneur requires. And there's loads, but these will be my 6 things. First of all is desire. Okay, you've really got to want this. If you haven't got the desire to do something, there's no point. You can't make someone do something, you can't force them. So don't start your own business because you can't get a job. Okay, that's the wrong motive. You start a business because you have a desire to do that. Second thing is passion. Okay, so you have to be passionate about what you do. You've really got to believe in this. So it's a combination of heart and head set. That passion has to drive through. You've got to absolutely adore it. For me, I think I live in a world of purpose, passion, profit. Okay, don't chase the money. I've got to find my purpose. I find my passion that drives me towards it, and I'll make money out of that. So passion is number 2. You then need a sort of grit and determination. Okay, a real resolve that means you've got to dig deep. And those horrible, nasty, bleak days where it all feels the world collapsing around you, you've got to stand there and you've got to carry on. Okay, you don't give up. So that grit and determination. You need to have resilience, being number 4. Resilience being expect a lot of challenges. Okay, when those challenges come at you, you've got to be able to deal with them. Not blindly, but you've got to take the punches and roll with it. The execution of your entire business relies on 2 key traits. These are like trait 5 and trait 6, focus and discipline. Know what you're doing and have the discipline to go and do it. Now, you have those 6 traits, desire, passion, grit, resilience, discipline, and focus, you're probably going to be okay. And then use people around you. Surround yourself with like-minded people. But I think that's what you need. You need to understand the basic formula, customer market fit, solution problem, business model, and so on, and then make sure you've got those traits and then go forwards. Being brutally honest, I can tell you in the last 4 years, pretty 5 years, I can think of 7 people that I have met and started to coach and told them to go and find a job. Don't start a business, go and find a job, because you're just not built in that way. I know it's a lovely ideal, but you're just on the wrong trajectory.
Yeah. So here's what I think. What the first one was purpose, passion, grit and determination, resilience, and then focus, and what was the last one? Discipline. Okay. So humor me, Piers.
Yep.
Purpose, passion, focus, discipline, 100%. 100%. Those. Okay, so here's what I'm saying. With those 4, you should be qualified to run a business. You need the grit and determination. I'm not entirely sure what the difference between grit and determination and resilience are. You only need those things because it is so bloody difficult to run a business. So if, I mean, I don't know how, and I know you're describing the situation. Why is it so difficult to run a business? Is it surely those 4 things, purpose, passion, focus, and discipline, that should qualify you to run a business. You only need grit and determination and resilience because it's so difficult. So does it need to be so difficult is the question that I'm asking you.
It does. The flippant answer to that is yes, because no one said it would be easy. And if
Right.
it was that easy, no one would do it. Okay, but you have to understand what you're up against. So I would say probably three things, okay, which make it very difficult. Winning and retaining customers.
Yep.
That's hard. Okay, for all the reasons we know around white noise, abundance, all the sort of stuff, that it's a terribly competitive market. You've got a lot of challenges to overcome in actually just securing customers, because there's
Yep.
we're all too busy. Okay, number one.
And
Second
I think
is
the
people.
first one is that people don't realize that's what it's about. It's like if you go back to the E-myth, the entrepreneurial myth. I don't know if you've read that, but he says that, you know, it's not enough to be great at making donuts. You know, you have to have customers. You have to have people giving you money. You know, so okay, so the sales and the marketing, that's my bag. Okay, good. I agree with that.
Well, that's never easy. Okay, because it's tough. Second is people. Okay, you need to have people that you can scale and build a business with. You can't do it all on your own. So finding and retaining and inspiring and motivating and managing and leading those people is just the biggest challenge. We hear this thing about the great resignation, but trying to find great people to join you on your journey is a really challenging thing. So just that's something which is difficult, because you're entrusting somebody with your baby, okay, and you need to let go of the control of that necessarily. You can't micromanage stuff. So the other reason it's very, very hard is because you're under resourced, so you haven't got the right people, you can't build the right team, which is why investors, majority of the time, the number one factor they back in an investable business is people. They back management teams. The ability for a team of people to have the right technology, the right finance, the right leadership, the right sales and marketing, and the right people. It's a sort of team of five. If you've got an ace SWAT management team, bang, you're gonna nail it. So getting the right people around you will be my second thing. And then thirdly is the delivery. You know, understanding how to deliver things where service is concerned. We seem to have an apathy towards service these days. We pay lip service to it. So the delivery of what it is you do, whether it's manufacturing something, you know, I've done IoT businesses, I've done manufacturing companies, I've done retail, I've done a whole heap of businesses. The operational aspect of delivery is very challenging. Okay, so pulling it all together and making it work like a Swiss clock is really challenging. So those would be the three reasons it's hard. You know, selling and winning customers, finding the right people, and then delivering the business. That's never going to be easy, particularly in a startup phase.
Yeah. Okay, so what do I want to say about that? You see, I think sales and marketing is unnecessarily hard, because for me, the function of a business really, like the function of sales and marketing is, or the function of marketing is to be able to identify a market and a desire or a need within that market and produce a solution that meets that desire. So if you've done that bit of marketing right, like the first thing that you spoke about, like the you put it in a slightly different way, then sales and marketing is really easy. Like look at McDonald's; they've got a queue of people all day, every day. Like I'm a huge fan of their breakfast, but I'm not a huge fan of them.
Yeah, you know, Mark, I tell you, so I've developed a healthy cynicism for marketing. Okay, and I'll tell you for why. I've owned a couple of marketing agencies in the past. I understand the marketing process. I've sold marketing. I get it. But there are a few things I want to say about this. One is most people think of marketing and they compare it to the already successful companies like the Nikes and the McDonald's and the Virgins, all the amazing marketeers out there. And yeah, that absolutely is correct when you're of that scale or that sort of size. But for the vast majority of companies who are in startup, scale-up mode, okay, the principles apply, okay, but it's not the same. Okay, so it's not about the sort of, you know, attention, interest, desire, and all that sort of stuff. You have to box clever. Okay, so if I relate to B2B marketing, that's sort of I'm not a B2C guy necessarily, but the B2B thing, it's about being tactical, agile, huge amounts of common sense, hustling, being a bit blunt, being consistent, and just testing and trying. That's pretty much it. So much of this is common sense, you know, which is the basis of marketing, is the right message to the right person at the right time. You know, you put the right message in front of somebody who's got a need, surprise, surprise, they're going to be interested.
Yeah, but
That's
before that is what you call, did you call it the customer fit or the customer market
of
fit or
course.
the, so
Yes.
at the core of this is the product. And this to me seems to be a huge mistake. You're 100% right. If you're a startup, then like the first customer is much more difficult to convince than the 10 millionth customer, clearly. Um, but if you've got the right product, if you consider coming up with the right product as marketing, then it makes sales and marketing that much easier, I think. So if you,
Okay, caveat here. Go back to that thing you said about starting your own graphic design business.
yeah,
Okay, you don't need to establish a customer market fit because you're joining an existing market that is already flooded with
yes,
graphic
yes,
design.
yes, yes, yes,
So, so therefore, it's an entirely different conversation. Okay, it's about going and finding a customer amid a noise that is just huge. Okay, so if you are inventing a brand new solution to a problem that people perhaps think they may have, but they're not too sure, of which there are lots of those around, that's more of an evangelical type sell. You've got to you've got to try and build up that advocacy from marketing per se.
yes,
But a lot of people I meet are not creating or inventing something that's revolutionary. Okay, it's often
no,
it's plagiarism, or it's a play on a theme that's already there. So, for example, I started a coaching business. Okay, I don't need to find a market fit. I've chosen a niche, which is coach entrepreneurs, and I know where my market fit is. Okay, so all I've got to do is just execute great marketing to be able to win clients, and I do, and I'm very happy with that. So I think you've got to determine whether you're in an existing market, which is more of an advocacy type sale, or whether you're in a brand new market. It's that sort of Ansoff matrix, new product, new market, existing product,
yes,
existing
yes,
market,
yes,
low risk, high risk, and so on. So identifying that first is probably the key thing.
yes. Okay, and I would argue that it almost doesn't matter if you're going into an like a brand new innovation in a brand new, like the Ansoff thing is like that's the highest risk, isn't it? Brand new market, brand new innovation. So that's the highest risk. Okay. So but I would argue that entering an existing market is fine. Then you have to that would be my recommendation always, because otherwise you've got to educate the whole market that there is this new thing available and. Um, but it's the most effective marketers are the ones who understand their market best. So if you're a coach or if you're a graphic designer, if you're whatever it is, those businesses that manage to get closest to their market and eventually their customers and deliver exactly what it is their market or their customers need will be the most successful. And that for me is kind of the mission of marketing. And the function really of a business is to be able to develop processes for understanding markets and identifying opportunities and producing solutions to meet those opportunities is what I would say.
Yeah, I change it just on one level, which is, successful marketing is not about understanding the market; it's about understanding the customer need. And there's a difference because innovation in a market. So I'll give you an example. I launched a very successful garden centre business, and I'm not a garden centre person. I'm not a horticulturalist. That market is horticulturally driven. So
Yeah.
people buy ericaceous, deciduous, herbaceous. It's all Latin names. It's all quite complicated. And selling plants, my God, horticulture is tough. I came into that not knowing that market at all, but I came to it seeing something through the eyes of the customer I was trying to attract, which are non-gardeners. People like me who buy blue plants and red plants. Okay, not Taxus piccata, sentiverum, but I just want to buy a simple plant and stick it over there because it looks nice. So I understood the need of the customer, okay, and I went and found a solution to that customer's need, not the market, but the customer. And I think that would be the one thing I'd add to what you said there. I don't disagree with you, but I would add
Yeah.
that. More
And
important to know the customer need.
yeah, 100%. I wouldn't disagree with you either. Understanding what the market needs and presenting that to the market so that you can attract customers. That's, I think, maybe the only distinction in what we're saying. So, and that frazzles my mind is that I only ever worked before I ran my own business in businesses where there were essentially 2 or 3 sets of people, maybe. There were boffins who came up with products. There were us in the sales team. There was no marketing who had to go out and try and convince people to buy these products. and then there were accountants and managements and those kinds of people. But it seems to me that people miss the point then. They make marketing difficult because they think that they can create in their mind a product or service and then go out and find people who want that product or service. If they change it and look to the market and look for gaps in the market, then I think that resolves that issue. That makes sales and marketing that much easier. I want to come to your second point about staff, because I'd managed people previously before I ran my own business, and I was quite good at it. And it seems to me that there's two things about staff that makes this really, really difficult. And I'll be honest with you, like my attitude to this was pretty blasé when in the early years of running my business. It's like, oh, they said I wouldn't last a year, and I have. Now they're saying that staffing is going to be a real issue. You know, let's see. There's two things. Like when you manage in an ongoing business, all of the very basic, what you would think is unnecessary tradition has already been established. People turn up on time. People don't steal. People wear appropriate clothing. All of these very basic principles are established in existing businesses, and establishing those in a startup is something that has to happen. Because people aren't just going to rock up. They're just going to rock up and they're going to take your example, whatever your example is. They're going to take that. So that's one thing that makes it really difficult. And the other thing that makes it really difficult is that people don't really care. Like you expect, I don't know, like people who come and work for you to care, but they're not going to have your purpose and your passion is the issue. So there's going to be that difference in expectation. Okay, there's three things. So the difference in the expectation between what you're prepared to commit and what they're prepared to commit. And then the third thing is, I was just gone from my mind, completely gone from my mind. Yeah, so I'm with you. Staffing is an absolute nightmare.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, again, I come back to I like simple. Okay, just
Yep.
my entire philosophy, everything I've ever learned in personal development about business and about work comes out of two things: work hard, be nice. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more than that. Work hard, be nice.
Yeah.
I challenge anyone to come up with more than that. It all comes back to that. But
Well, it was the 1 minute manager was not very different from that, was it? His thing was catch them doing something right and praise them.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, yeah, just be nice to people. Treat people like
Yeah.
you want to be treated yourself. I find it incredible that we hire people and then we sack them. That says more about you than it is about them.
100%.
Incompetence is a reflection of management. It's a reflection of leadership. You're right. You're absolutely spot on, which is make the distinction between this is your business, your baby, you care, you're passionate. Don't expect people to have the same attachment as you, because it's not their business, their idea. They're there to
Yes.
work. And all you've got to do is just give them a parameter, be firm, but tell them work hard, be nice, and treat people well, be authentic, be honest. Don't treat people badly. If you treat people badly, they'll rebel. Inspire them. And exactly that, catch them doing something good and praise them. I mean, it's all very basic stuff. So it doesn't have to be a nightmare. It only becomes a nightmare if you're a nightmare.
Okay, and so that was the third thing that I'd forgotten, was that managing people for a job, for a salary, and managing people where you're paying everyone's salaries is very different. What I realized when I went into management is that basically what I was doing is protecting my guys from the management and protecting management from my guys. I was kind of sitting in the middle, making everyone happy, making sure nobody got mugged in the car park after the day was over. That was kind of the role as middle management in a business. But when it's you paying the salary and giving the orders or whatever it is, then it's a very different gig. I think there is something, the dynamic changes, and when you're paying the salaries and you're managing the people, that's a very different dynamic, I think.
It can be. It depends on the stage of the business at. If things are going according to plan, it's a little easier. If you're making money and enjoying yourselves and winning awards and winning customers, it's a pleasure to pay people.
Yes.
But if your plan is not going well and you're not executing according to plan or on target, then the cracks start to appear. And often where management, they blame other people. They'll blame their people. They'll blame their team.
Yeah.
So, a battle plan that people put in play is really down to the ownership of the general managing it.
Yes.
So it's your plan. It's up to you. You take the responsibility. You take the guts and the glory with it.
Yes. Yes.
Don't blame your people. So don't make it into a nightmare. It's your nightmare. Depends how the test of management is when things don't go well. Managing
Yes.
a ship, as we know, using an analogy, managing a ship when it's calm, dead easy. Managing a storm, whole different ballgame.
Yeah. And the thing is, I
Escalate.
think what we're talking about is, I mean, what my management effectively ended up being, I don't employ people anymore, but I would be absolutely lovely, and then they would really upset me, and then they would leave in tears. That was essentially what it came down to, and it was a disaster. And it's because I was under pressure. I was under pressure. So what I didn't realize as an employee, if my money wasn't in my account on the last day of the month, I would be going ballistic as an employee. What I didn't realize is that as a business owner, all you're doing for the entire month is trying to make sure that money is in the account on the last day. So, and this comes back to, me not understanding that you need money to invest in a business. So I was always operating under pressure. So 90% of businesses go out of business within the first 2 years. I wonder what the percentage of businesses are that are like, we're not talking about the great businesses. I wonder what percentage of businesses are actually operating under this pressure.
Yeah, good. It's probably quite a lot, I suspect.
Yeah.
But equally, there are lots of businesses that don't. And so
Yes.
the goal has to be to move out of the former into the latter. How do you get your business to being cash generative, enjoyable? If you start worrying about, cash flow, paying the bills, people leaving, culture, all that sort of stuff, bad service, that's a toxic kind of environment. And maybe you need to look at yourself and say, am I really capable of doing this? Because if I've got investment, and people put money into the company, and I've got customers paying the money, if it's all going to ratchet behind the scenes, maybe there's a bigger problem. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is you. So it's not always about
Do you
the
mean
pressure
me?
of. No, colloquially speaking, but good management is about consistency. So if you
Yes.
look at football managers, you look at a manager of a football team. So Sir Alex Ferguson, a very good example. Whenever a goal was scored, he wouldn't be leaping up and down, jumping off, and shouting from the rooftops. He just gives a little mini fist pump. Good. He's very consistent. He
That's
doesn't
what we're
have the
here to
highs.
do.
He doesn't have the highs. It's all about consistency, because that's what employees expect. They expect boundaries. They want to know they're going to get the salary at the end of the month. They want to know what their specification for their job is. They want to know the boundaries they can operate within. They want to know that they're going to get appraised and perform, and they want to know what they're going to do.
Yes.
Great. But it comes right the way back to work hard, be nice.
Yes, but also be the kind of person, well, also understand what you're getting into and have the minerals for that mission, because it is difficult. But here's what I wanted to say before is small businesses do so much for society and for economies. And I don't know what the answer is. Certainly the answer isn't government interference, but small businesses, or maybe they just shouldn't. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it is just the call of the wild, and they this is the way it functions. I don't know. But so much of what goes on in society is dependent on small businesses. Like employment increases are always down to businesses. GDP is down to small businesses. Big businesses aren't wanting to pay people more than they have to. They're not looking to pay more tax than they have to. Do you see what I'm saying? So it seems to me that small businesses perform such a important function in economies and in society that, and I suppose this is your mission. This is what you're doing, is you're working with people to support them to have a better chance of being not just not going out of business, but running a successful business.
Yes, I mean it's very interesting because you're talking about. I mean, the thing about small business being the sort of the cornerstone of society, and it absolutely is. Interesting when I think about why that is. It comes down to very fundamentals. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Physiological, safety, belongingness, community. That third need is a key thing, which is that community and belongingness and feeling part of something. So by default, community-based businesses are small. Okay, it's very hard. It's not impossible, but it's quite hard to have a major corporate operating as a local business. So Starbucks, Tesco's, yeah, to a degree, they're local businesses, but they're not community businesses. They're not tailored to the community.
Yeah.
Whereas the local coffee shop or the local greengrocers is, but they're a small business. As whoever coined the phrase, Britain's a nation of shopkeepers, is true. Small business is the cornerstone of community. That's what brings people together. And so for that reason, small businesses you pick up your local parish magazine and you look at the companies who do design and graphic services or web services locally. These are micro businesses, solopreneurs. Those are absolutely the cornerstone. We should be supporting more small businesses. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And starting your own graphic design business for the community, wonderful. Do that. And, give back to society a little bit. It's that give and gain model. If you give back and do good things will happen to you.
Yeah, and I kind of think that, but I also kind of think, but if people say to me, I'm thinking about starting my business, the first thing I say is, don't do that. If you enjoy having holidays, if you enjoy having a pension, if you enjoy, because immediately you run your own business, you are engaged with that. For the 9 years that I did this properly, I did not think about anything other than my business for those 9 years, for my entire waking hours, and I was dreaming about it. And I launched myself out of bed every morning, and I was delighted to go out and make a change in the world. And, I was really excited about it always. But there wasn't, I don't think, a second in that 9 years where I was able to switch off and enjoy a movie or a book or a date or
So that comes into the sort of psychology of business management, which is, it's not about working at, it's an old adage, but don't work harder, work smarter.
Yeah.
So, I don't agree with you by saying don't start a business because you need that pension, the holidays and the salary and so on. Actually, it's not true, because I run my own business, okay, and I take regular holidays, I take regular time out, I don't work 24/7 if I don't need to, don't want to. And actually, it's a conscious choice not to, because I make sure I have time to recharge my batteries and focus on a balance of other things.
Yeah.
Which is interestingly why a number of the world's billionaires, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, are giving their fortunes away. It's not about making money. I tell you one thing which most entrepreneurs miss, but I would actually encourage everyone to learn this. Follow your passion first and the profits will follow. It's purpose, passion, profit. Don't chase the money, chase the relationship. If the relationship works, the money will follow. Have that give and gain model. Don't worry about the money, it'll happen. The money is a byproduct of good business.
Okay.
But to have a sense of,
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
And I think the difference is, I don't know what your business looks like, but by accident, I came to realize that the way a business is supposed to look isn't useful for me. So my business is very different. I don't employ people anymore. I don't do any of those things. So my the way I've reconciled these things is I've realized that less is more. Doing much less, having much less effect, employing less people, having less customers, that is definitely more. That's the way I've resolved this for me. And I would imagine your situation is similar. And a lot of the people I speak to in these conversations have got to this point where they're not trying to be a traditional business. Because that's the thing we haven't spoken about is, you said that what I was proposing was like a growth mindset that also attaches itself to your brain as soon as you go into a business. Like if you're not growing, you're dying. Like if you're not green, you're decaying, or something like that is the mentality. So there is this weird...
I agree with you, but growth is not about money or turnover. That lovely saying, which is valuation is insanity, turnover is vanity, profit is reality, cash is sanity.
Yes.
So growth is not just about growing the business it can be. There's a lot of other areas of growth apart from just money. Yes, money pays the bills and it keeps things going. The growth in people, yes, more people, more resource, but the growth in reputation. There are plenty of, look at B Corp for example, B Corp organisations. They're a business for good. Okay, they will grow, not necessarily financially, but it's about growing as a force for good, helping people. So it's not about the money. The money is irrelevant. So don't think of, when you have a growth mindset, think about growing reputation. Think about growing in terms of skills. Think about growing in terms of how your product performs in product performance. Think about growth in customer service. Don't think about top line growth. Think about bottom line growth and middle growth. So I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact you need a growth mindset just to think about how you build a business at the top up, top down.
No.
Build it from the inside out.
And I 100% don't subscribe to that, because what I found is the opposite is true. I think a much healthier outlook, and I used to do this and I'd completely forgotten. It was Barnaby Winter who reminded me of this. Mm-hmm. And he said, just work out what you need and do that. It's like, but that's not like, so immediately you're in business, you can't fail and you can't stop growing is like, and this I think is what makes it so stressful, because there's no ceiling, there's no finish line, there's never a point where, I mean, there is for you and I clearly now, but for people who run businesses traditionally, there's no point where they can go, you did well, give yourself a treat. You know what I mean? Because it's the first of the month tomorrow, so you go again and again and again.
Equally, so when I meet entrepreneurs, not every business needs to be invested in. Not every business has an exit. Okay, there's a very big difference between being a vocational business owner versus being a founder entrepreneur. Very different businesses. You could have a plumber who's worked for a firm for 20 years as a plumber and goes to start his own plumbing business because he feels the service he can give is better than his current company. That's a local business supporting local people and serving the community. It's a lifestyle. He or she can work 3 or 4 days a week, and they're very happy doing that. They're a business owner. They start their own company, but they know the ceiling of where they want to get to because they balance it. Then you got the other guy, the young sort of mid-20s entrepreneurial mindset, forward-thinking, go-getting, yeehaw merchant who wants to take on the world and is happy to work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. Good luck to them. That's fine, but then eventually they'll plateau, and eventually they'll realize, okay, now I sold the company and I've got 20 million quid in the bank. Now what? Okay. It's not about the money.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if you haven't got money, everything's about the money. That's the problem. And I think if someone had told me, hang on,
I'm going to challenge you, Martin. Sorry, I don't agree with that. I think in some corners of society that is true, but I can tell you, you go to India or go to Africa and sit in a village with people who haven't got a pot to piss in, they are the happiest people in the world.
Okay, good. All right, so let's qualify that. We're not disagreeing. If I was sitting in India or Africa and I could just, and I was only concerned about what I had to eat today and where I was going to sleep tonight, that would be, I'm 100% with you. For me, wherever people are close to the environment is where the happiest people are. But that's not the environment that business people in the UK are operating in. So in that environment, if you haven't got money, then money is everything, I think, is what I'm saying. Okay, we've gone for an hour and a half, Piers, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm not sure if we answered the questions or not, like who you work with, how you add value to their lives, your recommendation. Do you want to cover? Well, I mean, I can go for
there's a couple of things. So I am an avid reader. I also advocate reading fiction as much as non-fiction because a lot of what we read in the non-fiction, the self-help world is a I'm not being kind by saying it's a rehash or regurgitation, but it all comes down to some pretty basic premises. And there are some amazing books out there. And I wouldn't say I've got the one go-to book. There's a whole host of them, and a lot of people you've met have written books, so which I would advocate all of those. Two that particularly resonate for me: 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma is a good one. because that's about investing in yourself and looking at a bit of me time. Really important for people. The other is James Clear's Atomic Habits, which I love because it's all about making little changes to make habits form and how bad habits and good habits form. So those are two great books which I love because they resonate very well with my coaching business. And answer your question, how do I add value to people's lives? Well, principally, it's helping being the blind spot, because I'm a great believer we don't know what we don't know. And I've got a series of lived experiences over the last 35 years of working. 30 of those have been running my own businesses. I've had success, I've had failure, I've employed people, I've fired people, I've bought companies, sold companies, I've raised 40 plus million for various ventures over the years, plus raising cash for people. So I've done kind of pretty much the whole breadth and spectrum of business. And if I can share any of those experiences with people in a way that helps them, that's my mission, is to help and share. And I think actually, I've got sort of one sort of parting thought memory which I will share with people, which is just remember most of what you worry about never happens.
Yes.
Because, a great acronym, FEAR, false expectations appearing real. It doesn't really happen. We talk about money. The chances are that most of the people who will listen to this and most of the people who will come across don't actually end up sleeping on a park bench.
Yes.
Nothing. Okay, you don't lose everything, the shirt on your back. It's a thought process, but it's a false one. The reality is you'll be fine. Okay, yes, you won't be able to have holidays in the cars and all the things you want to do, and you might be living and scraping by, but you'll never actually end up being homeless on the streets.
Yeah.
The chance of that is small. So that's the end of the spectrum we've got to focus on. So just believe it'll be fine. Trust the process, which is if you get it right, it'll be fine. But just reflect on yourself a lot. But don't worry about it. It's fine.
No, I think you're 100% correct. And so actually, I think the most valuable thing is if we can just let people know that actually, if it is so stressful, I ran my business. I produced a video, was one of the last things I did in my business about LinkedIn marketing. And it did phenomenally well. It's had like 600,000 views on YouTube. And it was ranking really highly for just the words LinkedIn on YouTube. Somebody put a comment beneath it saying, "You look sick. You look sick. Like, get yourself to the gym, do this, do something else. Like basically you look unhealthy." It was a good couple of hundred words. They really thought about it. And I had to take it down, obviously, because I didn't want that to be what people associated with it. But what I didn't realize, of 9 years of running this business in this way, I did a phenomenal amount of good for my customers, for me, for some of the people who worked for me. That was all fine. But the cost to my health was enormous. So I think if maybe letting people know, like maybe what Gary Vaynerchuk said, nobody actually cares, and it's fine. If this is affecting your health negatively, then you can stop. And then what you're saying, most of what you worry about never happens. You can stop doing this and it can be fine. The other thing they can do is pick up the phone and talk to you, because I see on your LinkedIn profile, your headline now reads, "You can call me anytime," and has your mobile number. So that's cool. Okay, so I'd like to have another conversation if we can in maybe 5 or 6 months, because I'm interested in this investment. Like, I'm interested. That was the missing link. You're going to tell me the money doesn't matter. It mattered. Money was an issue all day, every day. But investment, how you qualify for investment, how you get investment, what you do with the investment, I think that's a really cool conversation to have.
Definitely.
Okay, good.
You want somebody I can throw under the bus who you can talk to?
Yeah, 2 people normally people throw under the bus.
Okay, William Buist.
William
Buist.
How do I spell that?
I'll give you his Buist.
I would imagine he's the only William Buist. I've never heard the surname Buist before.
He could be. I'll connect you to William. And the other is Rebecca Jenkins.
Rebecca?
Jenkins.
Okay.
So Rebecca, she built up a company's £50 million business, sold it, and is a growth consultant. Really, really bright lady. Love her to pieces.
Okay.
And William has just published a book on business mastery. So he's a business consultant, really good, bright guy. So I think you'd like both of them. I'll certainly connect you.
Excellent. If you could do like an introduction on LinkedIn or an email like Keaton did, that would be really cool. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
It's interesting because we could talk for hours about this stuff, and I'm sorry we didn't get in an order, but actually, it's lovely because there's so much around this stuff. I'm very passionate about this, and I think we drilled into the core and the essence of what actually, being an entrepreneur is about.
Yes.
Which is, it's not supposed to be easy. No one said it was. It's not, but equally, it's not supposed to be impossible and hard. It's supposed to be challenging. And I think, and there's so much thought I've got around this. But yeah, let's talk again in a few months' time. I'd love to, and we'll talk about investment. And certainly investment, because that's for the majority of the people that we know in that network. So I know the Kettons, Warren Cass, Barnaby. I know all these guys. Ben Kent. We've all come from a similar sort of network.
Yes.
And the majority of people they work with in terms of investment, absolutely, I can talk to you about investment till the cows come home. So, been there, seen ahead of time.
Cool.
A matter of interest, have a look at the Business Box. It's another business I've started, formalized last year. It's called thebusinessbox.com. And that's a startup toolkit for entrepreneurs.
Okay, cool.
And there's a little stuff in there about investment and so on. There's a guide you can download and stuff as well. But yeah, I've got a dash, Charlotte. I've got a meeting.
Yeah, I've also got a dash.
Yeah, but really great to catch up, Martin. Thank you for this, and look forward to hearing from you as soon as I get ready to go live.
Okay, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, man.
All right, buddy. Take care. Have a good one. See you.
I'll see you soon.